2 programs enter. Both programs also leave. You may or may not start using one of them, and neither costs any money. The stakes have never been lower. We're gonna do a slightly different format here. I got a comment recently that with all of the paid app reviews that I've been doing, it was starting to come across as a little bit overwhelming, which is the exact opposite of what I was trying to do with the review component of this channel. So I'm gonna start reviewing some more free material, some more programs that don't cost you any money whatsoever, as well as continuing to provide solid free alternatives for you, which are all available at my website, link in the doobly-doo. For today's review, we're gonna take a look at a couple of staple beginner barbell programs. We're gonna play some side by side, and I'll offer my opinion of why you should jump into one or the other. I'm also gonna offer you my own free alternative to them. I'll explain a little bit about it at the end of the video, so stick around for that. Also stick around to the end of the video for some tips on how to run either of these programs if you do decide to use them. The rating system is exactly the same. Description for that is in the doobly-doo as well. What I'm going to be doing is basically, as we go, going to be giving scores to both programs side by side. The 2 programs are Starting Strength by Mark Rippetoe and Stronglifts 5x5. For final scores, I'm giving Starting Strength a 6.5 out of 10 and Stronglifts 5x5 a 7.5 out of 10. Getting this out of the way, I think both programs are great for beginners. You could pick up and run either one of them right now if you wanted to, and you will see results. For effectiveness, both programs get 2 out of 2. Both programs are built around barbells. The main lift for both is the squat, with the bench press, overhead press, and deadlift being main movements in both as well. Starting Strength eventually introduces power cleans, followed later by chin-ups. Stronglifts keeps the barbell row as a main throughout, and I've also seen variations that include dips. In short, great compound movements. Compound in this case meaning multiple joints are moving. It trains you to use heavy loads. They're very easy to progress. All of this is fantastic for a beginner-focused program. And of course, one of the most famous parts of both of these programs is that all the main movements are programmed for sets of 5. And all use a beginner linear progression, which basically means you just add 5 pounds to the bar every session until you can't anymore. As a quick note, in case you're not familiar with this sort of thing, your squats and deadlifts will probably be able to add weight pretty consistently for quite a while. Barbell rows and power cleans will dry up a little sooner than that, and then bench press and overhead press will grind to a halt the fastest, just because it's smaller muscle groups. There's slightly more complex movements in some cases. Just be prepared for the fact that you will stop progressing on some exercises before others. That is okay, that's just all part of the process. Importantly, these exercises work just about every major muscle group in your body when you put them all together. So for a beginner program, and bear in mind, beginners are gonna respond to just about anything they do, this is a very efficient way to develop strength in the sense of your maximum force output, to build your skill in these major movement patterns that will be a part of your training for the rest of your life, and of course, growing muscle. I know there's a lot of folks that don't think that you can grow muscle at low rep ranges. One, that's not strictly true. As long as volume's equated and you are progressing over time, muscle growth will most likely happen, as long as you're also recovering properly, sleeping, eating, yada, 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 yada. You should build muscle on this program, especially as a beginner, because as I mentioned before, beginners respond to everything that is lifting. So both programs are great. They'll get you results. Moving on. On usability, I'm giving Starting Strength a 1.5 out of 2 and Stronglifts a 2 out of 2. Let's start with what works. Both programs are free. They're easy to find online. They can be easily logged using a spreadsheet, a notebook, an app. When I was doing my beginner progression, I was just using the Notes app on my phone, for example. That is a-okay, because there's not that many lifts to keep track of. And both have communities online that you can turn to for advice if you need it. Once again, ensuring that you never have to spend a dime as long as you have access to a gym, which admittedly probably involves spending a dime, but Come on, work with me here. But Stronglifts edges out starting strength here, in my opinion, for usability, because the barbell row is just so much easier to learn than the power clean. All of these lifts, though you will spend the rest of your time lifting getting better at them, you can get the basics of these lifts with very little input from a coach. The squat, put bar on back, sit down, stand up again. The deadlift, put bar next to your shins, pick it up, put it down. I know I'm oversimplifying, please don't get at me about it. The power clean, though, is a complex movement with multiple phases, an explosive phase, a requirement to catch that most people do not figure out intuitively. And for a lot of beginners, and I am speaking from experience in terms of teaching these movements to people, these are scary movements to learn. You're throwing a barbell. You're throwing, at the bare minimum, 45 pounds and catching it right next to your trachea. I've watched people be discouraged just from seeing this thing performed. Lots of folks are going to be intrepid and figure it out. Others won't, and others are going to do it so sloppily that they're missing out on the point of the movement. The movement itself is great for the program. That's why I gave it 2 out of 2 on effectiveness. And if you are looking to tackle starting strength specifically, but the power clean does intimidate you and you don't have someone who can teach you, just do rows. You'll be fine. On flexibility, starting strength gets 0 out of 2, and Stronglifts gets 0.5 out of 2. By design, these are not flexible programs. You do the exact prescribed exercises for the exact sets and reps. That is how they work. If you change them, you're doing a different program now, which is fine. I wrote one. It's down below. Go get it. There are variations of both of these programs that you can find all over the place. Boost Camp, for example, used to have starting strength in its original form. That seems to be gone now, but you'll see a lot of user-created programs that are starting strength with maybe a slight variation or just one block of it. And Stronglifts, I'm giving it that 0.5 because it at least has an accessory slot built in that you can fill in for yourself. I do think that allowing more autonomy and flexibility to trainees than is seen here is important. And because that isn't present in these programs, they get the scores they get. Especially because, understanding what I know about Mark Ripito of Starting Strength, he does seem to genuinely believe that these are the only exercises worth doing. See his video on the trap bar deadlift if you don't believe me.
And now I want to show you the sagittal instability. See this swing?
I do have some tips on how to incorporate some flexibility into this programming, so again, stick around to the end of the video so I can walk you through that. On enjoyability, this one's tough, but I'm gonna give both a 1 out of 2. It's 3 or 4 exercises for sets of 5. Mileage is going to vary if you enjoy that type of training. If you anticipate that you are going to enjoy training with a broader variety of exercises in a broader variety of rep ranges, this is going to feel tedious. If you love training specifically like a bodybuilder where you're doing a bunch of isolation work and you're chasing the pump, this ain't that and you are not going to like it. There is, however, a definite source of real enjoyment and fulfillment here, and it is that lizard brain thing that we kind of all have, which is the sheer, unrivaled joy of number go up. Humans are simple. We love watching number go up. A lot of people build their entire lives around watching number go up. Some people are putting the future of the human species at risk over seeing their own personal number go up. The beauty of both of these programs is the sheer simplicity of the linear progression. Just add 5 pounds. If you haven't seriously trained for strength before, this can be a very empowering experience. I really do think that that is ultimately at the core of what has given these programs their staying power for beginners over the decades now that these programs have existed. When did Starting Strength come out? 2005, so 20 years. 20 years! 20 years of trainees tackling this program and watching themselves get friggin' strong. That is dope. And on value, both programs get 2 out of 2. They're free. There are ways of spending money on these programs if you want more material, essentially. Stronglifts does have a subscription app now. I haven't checked it out because that's outside the purview of this review, but if you want me to take a look at it, leave a comment. I straight up haven't tried it before. I don't know what's in there. Starting Strength does not have an app that I'm aware of, but the program itself originates from Mark Rippetoe's book of the same name. The book explains the philosophy of the program, Mark Rippetoe's personal approach to strength training for beginners. I don't agree with a fair number of his takes, but the guy knows a thing or two about a thing or two, and so from what I understand, again, I haven't read the book specifically. I've just read a lot of his articles, listened to him talking about a lot of these things. But from what I understand, the book is a really, really good primer on it. So if you are curious, I have it on good authority that it's worth checking out. We've completed the review section of this video. We're now going to get into tips. If you are going to run Starting Strength, Stronglifts, or my own program, Starting Strong 4x5, here are some ways that I would suggest you can get the most out of the program. Programs. Number 1, start with the empty bar. I don't care what you can currently lift. If you are someone who has been like barbell squatting for ages, this program isn't for you in the first place. What are you doing? And if you are a beginner, you're not really familiar with these lifts, at least you haven't really pursued them seriously, start with the empty bar. Put your ego aside, leave it at the door, and get really good at the skill of these basic movements. Just add weight each session as prescribed. If you're squatting 3 times a week, you're adding 15 pounds a week. That is going to add up very quickly. And this is your chance to get really, really good at these exercises. And that is a skill set that will serve you for the rest of your life. Even if you never pick up a barbell again, anything that involves a squat or a forward push or an overhead push or picking something up off the floor is something that will be served by you taking the time to get good at the skill. There's no rush here. For the deadlift, the empty bar thing is a little more negotiable. I would suggest if you have access to 10-pound bumper plates and you are physically able to lift 65 pounds instead of 45 pounds, then go with that, just so you can keep range of motion consistent as you progress. If you don't have access to bumper plates, don't sweat it. Just bear in mind the movement is going to feel a little different as the size of the plates you're using changes. Number 2, replace the power cleans if necessary. I've mentioned this one already, but just in case, for example, you skipped to this part of the video, the power clean is a much more technically complex movement than all the other exercises in either of these programs. It is a good exercise. It is not an essential exercise. There's no such thing as an essential exercise. So if you don't have access to someone who can teach you the technique, for example, you've got a buddy who is really into Olympic lifts in particular and can give you a quick primer in exchange for a beer or a smoothie if they're one of those like sobriety folks. Learn the power clean, proceed with the program as written. My blessings to you. I am able to personally bless you because I am officiating my friend's wedding next year. So I can bless you. Blessed. But if you don't have access to someone who can teach you, and it is a movement that intimidates you, it is very easy to just replace it with a barbell row and enjoy the training without having to worry about something that has that level of complexity. Starting Strength takes its time getting upper back work included anyway. You only get chin-ups in block 3, so frankly, it may end up being a net benefit to replace the power cleans with the barbell row anyway, just in my opinion. Number 3, don't forget your cardio and your accessories. I don't know who needs to hear this, but there is more to being in shape than 4 or 5 strength exercises. From the resistance training side of the equation, I would strongly consider including as maybe an accessory for like 8 to 20 reps, some single leg work, some arm work, maybe some trunk isolation work. And for goodness sake, please include some sort of aerobic conditioning in your training. Maybe you already play some team sports, or you enjoy going out for a jog, or you're like me and you just bike everywhere, so you've already got a lot of aerobic work in your week, in which case the need to specifically train it is definitely much lower. But if you don't already have that base covered elsewhere in your life, just adding a couple sessions a week of 20 to 30 minutes of cardio will have great benefits to your overall health your longevity, and frankly, performance in your weight training, since your conditioning does impact things like how well you recover between sets. And tip number 4, know when it's time to move on. If it was possible to add 5 pounds to the bar every week, forever, they would have to discover new materials to make barbells out of. Your newbie gains are a wonderful experience. They can create so much more buy-in to the training process, which is really different than most other hobbies. If you've ever tried learning guitar, for example, you probably know what I'm talking about. The newbie gains phase makes you look forward to training. It creates confidence in something that you may have previously been afraid of. But they're called newbie gains for a reason. They end. And that's okay. It's just part of the process. What you shouldn't do is continue to bash your head against the wall when the time comes to add a little more complexity to your training. Trying to keep squeezing blood from that stone is not necessary. Take what this gave you in terms of that full body strength and coordination and apply it to anything else. Anything else you want to do that is training. You're going to train. You're going to train. The world's your oyster and you're holding the Tabasco. Or make a copy of my free template and run that. I got it all laid out for you in a very easy to follow, easy to log format. Between 3x5 and 5x5, I split the difference and made it a 4x5. I'm also in my template giving you the option of actually choosing from a short list of similar exercises, because the back squat's not special, nor is the conventional deadlift. These exercises are tools. I love the back squat. I love the deadlift. I'm a power lifter. Look at my banner photo. I'm not denouncing the exercises that are the core of my sport. I'm just saying you're allowed to do other things that are incredibly similar, and you will get results from doing that.
This useless piece of junk is a trap bar. Harsh statement, but I see no point in it.
These are tools, so pick what makes sense for you. And maybe block to block, change things up a little bit. That is a-okay. As a matter of fact, it has been very widely shown that variability of practice can actually make you better at the thing you're trying to improve on. So, take my blessings from on high, or down low, who's to say where my blessings really come from, and go get friggin' strong. Bye!